Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
First of all, I know you very well. I know you also don't really like me, especially to say you reader, because you feel like yeah. Activists I see over and over again is that people come to you with their concerns and then they also share with you their story, and you hold their story with such a manner. When you have the opportunity, you're always willing to make sure that those stories go to the right people. On top of that, like what I really respect you is that even though I know Wellbeing Charitable Trust has the opportunity to expand, and with your insight, like you were approached by a local politician party, but as soon as you are being kept into an institution, not necessarily then you'll be able to be authentic. So you choose to be authentic, despite like you could have, go a lot more further if you really, because, like for you, many people know you, like to be elected will be easy, but you choose not to do it. And that is my biggest respect, because you really wanted that authenticity. You really wanted it to be the voice of the communities, and you really weighed it out.
I hate it when I have to bite my tongue. Yeah. I like the freedom of saying things that as it should.
Yeah.
And so and then knowing that being part of a higher level, there are times you have to bite your tongue that you can't say things because you would jeopardize the whole situation or whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided not to. Because it would be great to have someone who can manage that, but I'm sure it's not me.
Yes, go back. Yeah, but because we're talking about authenticity as a leader, and as I say, I've seen how you as an Asian is not easy to challenge authority, because our upbringing is not to challenge authority, it's to be quiet. And I know you knew if you put yourself in front, representing the community, you have to again what we taught.
It's not only that.
Yeah.
You're against the authority.
Yes.
You are against the people who has different opinion from you.
True.
You're against someone who hated who hated the thinking of me presenting them.
Yeah.
So it's quite a few things together.
Yeah.
But when it needs to be said, it needs to be said. I remember in our census training, one of our colleagues who has passed away, but he was there and he said that I'm not here for the government, I'm here for my people. So I will tell you what is not working. And I said, that's what I want to say. So we have quite a lot of people and at the grassroots level who does the same thing. But like I keep saying that I'm the lucky one. I was the one being seen and heard. There's so many unseen hero in the background that they do the work. And also, when you are at that position, you have to wait out every single word coming out of your mouth. And knowing myself, that's not going to work.
Yeah, I want to highlight though, like for people like Kiwi as a Pakistan or European Caucasian, if it's in their culture, you can see that they do it so easy, isn't it? Like for us, it's a lot more challenging, as I mentioned, and especially for female in Asia country, we still have that, a patriarchal society structure. So that's what I respect about you. I know people look at you as like, oh, this comes so easy from Eva, but I know as an Asian, we all have to go through that journey of fighting our own body.
Yeah, well, when you sit in the meeting room, you see something is not quite right. The first thing is that, do I raise this? So that's the first battle you have to do with yourself. Yes, this is important enough that I need to make it known. The second thing is, how do I put it together in English? Because it's not my first language. And then...
and even make them to understand because they never experienced it before.
Exactly. And when is the right timing to put my hand up and ask? So what people see is that I put my hand up and ask questions, but what people don't see is that the inside challenges before I actually put my hand up. It was never easy at the beginning of the years because I was young at the time, and I had been mistakenly. People think that I'm someone else's mistress. That's why I got to sit on the table and voice out. And
so they thought you were someone else's
mistress.
So you were invited instead of you were here because of your own merit. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you remember when when we first started, we're talking about business cards, right? And then I didn't want a business card, but then without a title, no one really actually listened to you. We made a joke for 17 years. When I say I'm the CEO of World Tribe, I'm actually a new person.
No, because the thing is, when the trust first started, I was happy with other things, and so every time we both go out, people would just look at me and talk to me instead of talking to you. So so I say, Eva, we need a business card for you and say you are the CEO. So then people will pay attention to you instead of just talking to me, especially in Asian culture.
They would prototype.
Exactly. They would just talk to me as I now talk to her. She's the one who's what I just write.
And so they at one stage. And at the very early years, I do dress up for the meetings and dress up too formally that people thought I was actually a lawyer. And when I said, no, I'm actually a housewife, then they just walk away from me. And there were formal meetings, big tables, and I was sitting next to one of the senior leaders. And the person next to me even make the joke in front of me that, is this your new secretary? And I was like, excuse me? And it happens in my early years.
Because Asians tend to look younger as well. But I also want to point out that because it's harder as an Asian leader because you don't just go to one world, you go to different kind of worldview, and the challenge for you as a Chinese woman is that when you go into places where predominantly by men, you immediately being put out. Yeah.
And they thought, this is a new secretary, meaning this is a new mistress. And I was like,
that's so rude.
It is.
Wow.
But they say it regardless. So I always have the passion for the emerged female leaders. I can see there's a lot of similarities, a lot of things they did in my early years. That's why I always have passion for them and in terms of those situations. And then I think that what I want my daughters to be, I want them to be quiet or I want them to be outspoken. Which I don't pay much attention to my sons. I feel like being a woman, I kind of feel like it's a bit disadvantage in a way.
I mean, even though people think, the society is not equal, but I don't think people understand when you are Asian and then you're female, and then there's another layer of discrimination, especially, I think, as you rightly point out, when you're going to the worldview that's still predominantly driven by Asians' collective culture and patriarchal, hierarchical, it became quite challenging to really be proud of who you are and stand out. Yeah. So that's why I say, like, it's not easy. People don't understand.
During this years, it's a learning journey, and I pick up a few phrases that become my favorite phrases. So that when I plan to challenge someone, I found it easier to be very direct English. How English can be very polite, and I actually got myself lost. So over the years, if you hear me in the public space saying from English is not my first language, then people who knows me will know that the question coming up is going to be very sharp.
So that's the indication, like, love. But you ask some really good questions. I have seen, like, no one even dare to ask, but you stand out and say, wow, you say it so well, but let's test. That's whole community knew about this. Like, no.
So that's why, and well, like you say, we struggle within ourselves. We actually don't want to be the rude person. So I thought, I'll make the declaration that it's not personal. It's for the things I want to ask. But then I found it really interesting that whenever I am ready to ask some sharp questions, I'll start explaining English. So good. Then whatever come out is not because it's not a personal attack. It's just
absolutely
the question. And I found that it's easier for people to take that question better. Some of them still take it personal, but I can't help.
Yeah, you can't help. Like, you're just trying to share with them about the insight and things that you have witnessed from the communities, which they usually don't have access at all. Like, because how do they can't speak the language, like, even they don't even know what questions to ask.
Exactly. We've always been asked to think outside of the box. And one occasion I said that you guys always ask us to think outside of the box. But have you ever think that we're not even in the box?
Exactly.
So how do we think outside of the box?
And what I value as well, like, sometimes it's not even about money, because every time when you challenge authority, the first instance, we need to put more money. It's like, no, come to people like you who have the insight and give them a good understanding what will work. Sometimes it's not even about building website. That's what they usually like to go with, building another new website. And it's like, no, it's not. Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, even you have 160 languages on the website. People who doesn't know about the website, they wouldn't go and then click on it and then
so please don't spend the money.
It's not what
No way.
is done.
Exactly.
I do admire the technology make our life much easier, but then the people's connection is irreplaceable. I mean, when you go out and see, I don't know about you, with women.
I don't go out. I hide behind laptop and write.
So when I go out in the event, I'm at the age that I step in within 2 minutes. I will know this is my event or not. This is the place that I want to share or not. And if I kind of feel like, then I'll stay quiet, because if no one is taking attention, paying attention, why do I even stay? So when you step in and see a room full of passionate, especially young people, you feel like, yes, so what can I do with you, not for you? A lot of times that I don't like when people talk down to you, like, I'm doing this for you and what. I like the way of, I'm doing this with you. So with one of the women group that I'm working with, what I like them to say is that, what in one of this during the hard times now, we were saying that we're not leaning on each other, we're actually leaning against each other. And I really love that, is because, well, English is not my first language. I wouldn't come up with that, but it really touches my heart. So when I experience some challenges, I'll go back and say that I'm going to need to borrow some shoulders because of this and that. And you can find, you can easily tell, I guess, a true leader is always open and say, what can I do? But different leader, so-called leader will be saying that here's what you need to do. So I like to work with people who say, what can I do for you? Or what can I do with you? Because they are thinking as outsiders, how can they help the situation, not as from the top and thinking that here's what you need to do.
And I like your approach as well, because I know you often include other organizations to work with you, like instead of, like taking everything on board. That's why people come to you, because if like you don't just grab the money and say, yeah, I just going to hold on to this, but now you share it with the communities. And that is a very, generous gesture, like, because let's be real, even with the not-for-profit now, it's so competitive, like you have to find money and all that. But often that's why there are so many organizations or people say, yeah, I'm happy to work with Eva, because Eva is not someone who just want to hold on to the dollars and not going to share resources and say, I'm the one. You're saying, no. Let's bring another organization and see how we can work together. So you also help other organizations to fly as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also from the life experience that during COVID, remember how we were doing the food parcels?
Yes.
And there was nothing for us. So you actually have to tap on other organizations, and they're generous enough to support. And because with their own organization, they only reach out to their own people. But with us, it's wider, and I see the potential of helping more people. And so we start to work collaboratively, working together, that we have Sister Fatima's, who's got a systematic place to have all that needing things to be done. And us who has our own full-time job, what we have is the connections and refer to the right directions to do things.
I want to tell a story. I mean, I hope Visha don't mind. Visha from Thailand, the Asians Network Incorporated was locked down for COVID. And as soon as you knew about it, you went and buy some young Indian takeaway and give it to her. He still remember that, like, he said no one have done that. It's just so grateful. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, like, just in the neighborhood anyway, but who would do that? Like,
well, it's the basic needs.
Yeah,
for me, is that.
But that is who you are, Eva. Like you were genuinely thinking about someone else without any expectation of that person is going to return that favor to you.
Well, and there's a Chinese old saying that if you are expecting something, then you might as well not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
it's easy to say that, not many people Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm 100% there, but when I do things, I do remind myself that.
Yeah.
And then especially, we believe that the good things we do now is actually plants a good seed for our children.
Yeah.
I want them to thrive, so might as well do good things now, and then give all that.
You see, this is the humbleness, You have done so many things probably people don't even know, like, Christmas, New Year, when some people, especially migrants, have an accident in the hospital, and then you saw the news, you would just drop everything and go and visit that person, at least let that person feel like, oh, like they're not being left behind, because during that time it's harder to find social worker and all that. You wasn't trying to assert yourself. People vulnerability, and you really just want to help that person to feel like, oh, they're such strangers. I can give you that kind of warmth, just so that that person have a little bit of hope. And so I just want to mention that, like, I know, like, I seen you because we work together with Wellbeing Charitable Trust, and all that little things you have done people probably don't even know. Like, I knew because you was asking me for some, like advice that I don't, like this situation, what are available. That's why I knew. you wasn't even called to brag about it. It's just, I don't know. I was like, Eva, today is Christmas. You say, yeah, but that person don't have idea. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was at one stage international student.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And so if anything happens, I won't have family around.
Yeah.
And at one stage, my siblings all graduated and back to Asia. I don't have anyone with me. So I know and at one stage, I was in and out of hospital. So it really make a difference to have a visitor to come. And my bestie who is in Japan at the moment, she lives close by but she works during the daytime. So when she finishes work, she will bring me food to the hospital. And that really makes you feel different. Because after the whole day, checking, nursing, doctor, you just feel, and then having someone come and say, here's your dinner, and have a few chat with you, talk to the boy, you kind of feel like, right, I'm not alone.
There's the things like, regardless, like what ethnicity it is, I don't think people understand when you are migrants, or even when someone from the same country moves to another town, you just don't have support period. Only see Eva, wow, successful and all that. I know all the little story behind, and you still soldier on. And sometimes, like you don't even get paid at the early day, isn't it? Yeah. A lot of time you just doing it voluntarily, but you could have just say, too hard.
Well, I remember at the early years, we were talking about anything is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So any help is better than no help. Even as just a drop in and say hi, even as just drop in to give some food or offer some support. It is better than nothing.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.